Well, I probably should have done a little more studying, but I will for the next one. I thought we might work on this book a little bit. The Life and Teachings of Naropa translated by Herbert Gunther. So I don't know, Herbert Gunther, he's an interesting guy. He was one of the first ones. When his were the only books out when they first came out about Tibetan Buddhism. There was nothing else. I understand that he was not all that well received in Boulder when he came to Boulder to teach. We're pretty sophisticated. I belong to this community, Shambhala. And our teacher, Chogyam Trungpa, my teacher, he came from so like the Tibetans got taken over by the Chinese really in 1950, but the world would say 1959, but by 1959 they revolted in 1959. That's when everybody kind of stood up. That's when the CIA gave them 1 million guns and said, go kill some Chinese. It got a lot of attention, but been going on a while. So the Tibetans are freaked out, and they go, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Well, we got to go to the West. There's nothing to be done, a lot of people are going to stand on that hill and fight and die, but we're going to lose, We figured that out in 1950 when we got slaughtered, our armies got slaughtered by the Chinese were so strong and so battle. They come in there in 1950 right after they fought, a 15-year war and win. And Tibetans had nothing, man. They had nothing. It was so pitiful. The Tibetans were like so blind to what was going on in the politics. They just wouldn't let anybody in. Wouldn't let the British in. Wouldn't let the Russians in. It was either going to be the Russians, the Chinese, or the British. And the Russians and the British were powerful, and Chinese were flat on their back, so everybody's going, who's going to get it, the Russians or the Chinese? But the Tibetans just kept everybody at bay. They should have just, if they'd embraced the Russians, they'd have been great, If they'd embraced the British, they'd have been fantastic. But here's what they did. They said, we are a country of high lamas. Spiritually, we're so advanced compared to the rest of these barbarians. Who would be foolish enough to incur all the bad karma of coming in here and invading us? Nobody would be that stupid. Their karma would be horrible forever. Well, like we're living in a dream world. The government in Tibet was corrupt. The government today in Tibet is corrupt, I'm sorry to say. They're just, I don't know. The Tibetans have everything going for them, but just like everybody else, they have suffered some from bad government. People in power are just holding on to power, and I don't know. The Dalai Lama is the greatest of the great, but when he dies, it's going to be rugged. Be very rugged. And all this dirty laundry is going to come out then. That's going to be not pretty. People are going to start writing books about bad politics. It's going to be bad. But I'm not here to talk about that. Gunther. So he's got like a real erudite style, but I don't know, man. If you dig and dig and dig, the jewels you pull out of there are just unbelievable. And nobody else has written a book on this, those stuff he wrote about. It was so good, really, that nobody else has written another book, It's just, go read Gunther. You got to dig, 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 but it's like gold when you find it. So this is pretty pithy for the Kagyu lineage, and the name must study all this. They think it's theirs too. Why not? It is. Calyptus too. They all study this. They all kind of base everything on this, sort of. So this book is so beautiful. It talks about the 12 major trials of Naropa. I don't know. I could talk for hours on this. We better get to the point, I guess. He goes through 12 minor trials. I don't know. How can you do anything without the life of Naropa and understand what's going on here? I think I got to talk about it. So Naropa was like the greatest abbot. Had this thing called Nalanda University. There were 30,000 people there, mostly monks and probably a few nuns. And they were divided into 4 gates: the northern gate, southern gate, eastern gate, western gate. And each of them was like I went to Rice University, and we had a university system, it's called, and there's all these colleges. There are 5 men's colleges and 2 women's colleges, and everything's organized around the college. Your meals, your social life, like a big fraternity kind of, but much more like being at Oxford or something. And that's kind of the way it was. They're organized into these gates. They're called the 4 gates. And I'm sure they're broken down a lot more into all these different colleges. Anyway, Naropa, he had a different name than Abneyakirti. Was the abbot of, I forget, maybe the Western Gate, let's say. But he was like the most beloved one. He was the hero. He was the savior. He's the reason we're going to all be all right, because he's running the place. He was the most revered one. And, he was a very great scholar, so to speak. And he's sitting there one day reading his scholarly books, and this shadow comes over him. And, it's very kind of ominous and bad sign. He looks around, and there's this ugly old woman. She has like all these marks of horror, like yellow, you name it, snot coming everywhere, white, ugly, lame. Just looks like she's from Mars, You can't even believe this is a human being, And she says to him, "Do you understand the words or the sense?" And he says to her, "I understand the words." And she was just so happy. She just cackled and laughed, and she was just beside herself with joy. And then he said to her, "And I also understand the sense." And she just went into the biggest fit you could ever imagine. She just spitting and snarling and yelling. He said, "What's going on? You were so happy when I said I understood the words, and you went nuts when I said I understood the sense. What is going on with you?" She said, "It's because you told the truth when you said you understood the words, and you lied when you said you understood the sense, because you did not understand, and you never will. And you never will unless you go and find my brother Talopa." At which point she vanishes into like a rainbow and into like a sun-like vision and goes up into the sky. She was a Dakini, a female Buddha, guardian of the teachings. So what we work with a lot. Consciousness is male. Everything else is female and is represented by the Dakinis, who guard this wisdom and interact with beings who are interested in this wisdom. And sort of like, everything's alive, that's the dakinis. You're in here, everything is alive, that's the dakinis. Female wisdom. Wisdom is female. Male is skillful means. That's what the Karmamudra is all about. The male is the skillful means. The female is the wisdom. And they mate, which is consciousness in the world mates, and we get reality. So from then on, from the time he heard Tilopa's name, he is convinced that Tilopa is his guru, and that lady was right on, that he understood a lot, he understood a lot, but he did not understand the sense of what was really going on, and he never would unless he met his guru, Tilopa. So from then on, he's just obsessed. And he tells the whole, everybody, I'm leaving, I'm going to look for my guru, Tilopa. And they're like, oh my God. They do not take it well. They just say, you're doing the wrong thing. You're going against the Dharma. You're destroying the Sangha. You're on and on and on. But he was adamant that he would not be dissuaded. And he goes off. First he does all these practices. Leaves, does a bunch of mantras, prays to have an easy time on his journey, success, and meeting Tilopa. And he undergoes what are called the 12 minor trials and the 6 major trials. The minor trials are leading up to his meeting Tilopa, and the 6 major trials are what he undergoes under the tutelage of Naropa. I don't know, I could really take a long time, but let me just go. Each trial goes pretty much the same form. The minor ones are kind of the same, the major ones. This would be like an example of one of the minor trials. He's walking along. It's like, it's taking him, he goes, the minor trials go years and years, and the major trials go years and years, And many times every time, always something happens, and basically he goes into a faint, which is kind of what happens to us. It's symbolic of what, I don't know, it's like we're always going into a faint. We're always kind of losing our, we never, we meditate and maybe we tune into it a little bit, what it really is, get some idea, but we get up off the cushion, man, and we faint. As soon as we get off the cushion, we go into a faint, and we're not with what it is anymore. The Tibetans call it black diffusion. We're off in our thinking mind, and we're just, ain't there anymore. We're went into a faint. That's what happens to Naropa all the time. But often he encounters the dakinis, who are really just the guru. But dakinis manifest from the guru. Everything. Well, this is one of the things he learns. Everything comes from the guru. The dakinis and the dharmapalas. To help the protectors who work in concert with reality. It's reality, but reality is the guru. Your own mind is the guru. That's reality. But your guru is the only way to access that. So your guru is the deal, you know. The guru is everything. The Buddha is fantastic, but you never met the Buddha. Buddha was the kindest being there ever was, but you never met him. He wasn't necessarily kind to you because you never met him. But the guru you meet, the guru is kind to you beyond belief. The guru is more important than the Buddha to you because he's the source of everything. The kind only Father. Everything comes from him, but the Dakinis emanate from him, and the Dharmapalas emanate from him, and everything comes from the Guru. It's all caused by Talopa and their destined meeting, father and son. You know, so it's like walking down the trail, and there's like a dead dog with guts, and it's horrible smell, and just and Naropa's a little prissy. He's a Brahmin, you know. He's so pure, you know. Anything impure is like, ugh. You know, even the old lady was impure. He's like, so he just kind of holds his nose and jumps over the dog to try to, you know, get past it and get on his way. But just as he does, the dog turns into a vision and rises in the sky, and the voice comes and says, you know, you're always picking and choosing, you know, you pick what you like and you reject what you don't like, what looks ugly and smelly and awful to you, and you try to avoid it. You're never going to find your guru if you pick and choose like that all the time. That's not what it is. You know, what it is everything just wakes you up. If it's good, bad, or indifferent, it wakes you up. Instead of keeping you bound and clinging to a self which does not exist, everything wakes you up. You know, the shocking things of this life wake you up, and you don't reject them, and you don't chase after the. In the Karmamudra, we are not just chasing after the pleasant aspects of life and avoiding the ugly aspect. That's not what's going on here. Then he goes into a faint. Loses consciousness, you know, wakes up, nothing's there. Nothing happened. It was not real. It was all illusory. It was all a magic spell, so to speak. Which is what we got going on here. It's all a magic spell. It's all illusory. So it just keeps on going on like that, going on like that, going on like that until he keeps asking everybody, have you heard of Talopa? You know, and so every once in a while I get a word, yeah, we've heard of him. We think he lives, you know, 2 countries over, you know. So it gives him hope, you know, it gets a little, you know, it's horrible, you know, the despair he goes through, and he tries to kill himself and all kind of stuff he goes through. Thinking, I'll never meet Talopa in this lifetime, my karma's too impure, you know, da da da. But finally one day he pointed, he said, I don't know about any great teacher in Talopa, but there's an old beggar over here who's crazy as a loon. He's eating the guts of fish. And he goes over and he meets this dark-skinned guy. He doesn't really talk, you know. I mean, Naropa asks him a question, he just grunts or something. And he's frying up these fish live, you know, which is like not a very Brahmin thing to do, you know. It's not only a very low-class person in India would be doing this, killing animals. Very low class, you know, so he's like, oh, I guess I gotta do something, but what a disgusting individual this guy is. But then Talopa reveals himself, and what does he say? He says something kind of profound. Let's see. Give me a second. Okay, let's see. I should have got organized then. I, Talopa, smile and say, listen, you worthy vessel, immaculate, resplendent. The instruction burns like blazing coal. Emotional instability, the cotton cloth. He's showing him all these symbols. Now he's explaining what it all meant. He showed him a burning coal, and he showed him this cloth, and they burned the cloth, but what was left over was, it was like the cloth, but it was just ashes. But there, with the cloth, its form was within those ashes. Emotional instability, the cotton cloth. One's true spirituality is as a crystal pure. He showed him a crystal. Untie the eightfold knot of vice. Look with unwavering faith and love at the jewel of a guru. Drink the pure water of instruction, for water in all vessels is the same. Origination is unoriginatedness. Dharmakaya by itself, as creativity abides. The finger points, for that is its nature. As the snake uncoils, samsara frees itself. Muteness is the ineffability of experience. Fruit symbolizes the maturing of one's own and others' truth. Having solved these 13 symbols, you know them all. With the confirmation which matures the immature and the wish-fulfilling gem of Guya mantra, the Dakini's hidden home. Watch the mirror of mind and become mature. So I'm just going to bring this into gazing for a minute. This is kind of all about gazing in a certain way. Gazing is just like a really high form meditation, really. As your mind becomes very stabilized, next thing is sort of using, you just sort of gaze. What does that mean? He goes, Talopa says to him over and over and over and over again, look into the mirror of your mind, the palace of the Dakinis. So that's what we do when we gaze. We look into the mirror of our mind. When you are not in black diffusion, when you're not chasing your thoughts around, you just want to, it's like you're looking in a mirror and it's a dream, you know. There's nothing real. There's nothing real in the mirror. You're not fooled by that's real, you know. So in a way, we cease to become so fooled that that's real, but and if you can see your hands over here, ordinarily you couldn't see your hands, right? Because you'd be tunnel vision focused on something over here, which narrows everything down and makes everything seem concrete. It makes you seem concrete. Self becomes a self, that becomes a self. But when you gaze, there's nothing concrete. There's no self that you created out here falsely. There's no self you created in here. You're just looking in the mirror of your mind, the palace of the Dakinis. So that's what we do when we gaze. We just Our mind is still when it's still. It's moving when it's moving. We are very. We find like there ain't no home. There's no home. There's no home. There's just a trick jaw, which is cutting through. There's just a cutting through of clinging to thoughts. And Togya, which is a leap over. But it's a big joke because there's no place to leap from. You're in space to begin with. It's just like, now I'm space and I'm going to leap into space. That's impossible, but you do it anyway. That's what gazing is. There's nothing but space, and you just become space. Your mind is space, and you mix your mind in space. So that's gazing. And it's very powerful. It's too powerful to be talking about it a certain way, but we're here for very high teachings. I don't know. Maybe you're not quite ready for all this. You just go back to. But, maybe you need a little roadmap for what's going to happen later on. Or maybe this is all. Or an idiot kills himself right in front of you. I don't know what this is, but. For those who I think for people who have ears to hear and eyes to see, they can see what the future might be. You read this book and you'll see what the future is. It's a little obtuse the way he explains this. There's other people but they don't explain it neither sometimes. It's all explaining symbols and symbolically, and you gotta really dig in this book to get it out of here, but it's in here. It's worth it. Other books are easier to read, but they're whatever. Not many can take out of this book. You don't have to necessarily, but just know the story a little bit and what the signposts are, and read another book, which is just read Toku Ugen. That's all you got to do. Just read Toku Ugen.